But we're still debating these medical bills in the House, or not in the House, excuse me, in the legislature. They've been stuck over in the Senate for a number of months. There was a lot of chatter that the bills were going to be reported out of the Senate and maybe sent to the governor before this summer break here. But that didn't happen. I'm sure, as everyone knows, the bills were not voted on by the Senate. There's a lot of wrangling back and forth about various details. Of course, the lobby from the law enforcement leadership is very much present in these negotiations. And they were front and center, arguing for a variety of changes to the bills to do what they think is going to increase public safety, but what many of us probably suspect will decrease public safety. You know, they want to do things to further cut caregivers out of the system.
Increase arrests is what they're aimed at.
Keep going. I want to hear.
Exactly.
Don't interrupt them.
Yeah.
Keep going, Rep. Sorry.
It's gonna, you know, some of the changes that they're talking about will result in just simply making criminalization more a part of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, which is something many of us have all been fighting against.
If
you know,
you're a
that's
betting
where we're
man,
at right now.
If you're a betting man, you would probably even go on to say that they've laid it down. It's going to be put on the back burner. We should expect it lame duck as everyone's on their way out, and the police will get what they want. And start January 1st or something, we will have a police-driven dispensary bill that will tax and raise a huge price on patients and create a huge black market. Something to that effect, right?
I think that that's probably a pretty fair guess as to where this thing is headed. If you look at the changes that have been made for the bills from their inception, there's been, you know, pretty much a constant change, and every one of those changes have been against the interests of patients and caregivers and more to please the interests and demands of law enforcement, which, as you say, and which, as I say, around the halls of the Capitol, it really just serves a it costs patients money and provides them zero benefit. And it also drives the black market and the crime associated with it. And so, you know, why are we doing these things? You know, they're trying to make limits on the production of specifically butane hash oil, which is
safety
some of the
issue,
restrictions that they're arguing for. Yeah, it was some of they're arguing it's a safety issue. Some of the changes that they're arguing for is really going to push people into more dangerous locations to make that. They're talking about limits on
4210? That's in 4210?
Yep, that's what they're talking about in 4210. Yeah, they're talking about limits of potency. You know, like for instance, they're talking about, well, let's limit the types of zoning classifications that this could be done in. Or that processing facilities could be licensed in, or that cultivation facilities could be licensed in. All of these types of things are throwing a lot of different ideas at the bills. They're talking about changing where the revenue raised from the taxes and fees would go. They're talking about all sorts of these little changes to the bills that were part of what gummed up, I think, the bill's progress towards a vote in the Senate. There was just so many different proposals being thrown at it by mostly law enforcement, as far as I can tell, that it confused the issue. And it's an issue that already, you know, has only tenuous support from many of the senators who support it, who, from what I can tell from the whip counts I hear, are changing their support or telling different people different things, or what they're telling people is being interpreted differently by the different ears upon which those words are falling. So I just wanted to also give you an update on that medical situation before I left you.
Sure. Is there a chance that these bills won't pass? I mean, like, I know, and I didn't get the last part there. Were you saying that the support has become more in favor of passing some legislation, or because of all the various forms, it's become less likely people are backing away?
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I keep hearing, you know, yes, there are enough votes. You know, they've made the final capitulation necessary to get the number of votes, and then, you know, right when it gets to the 11th hour, well, no, I guess there aren't enough votes, and there aren't enough votes because there's a shitstorm around this or that or another thing. And usually it's yet another set of these proposed changes or it's some generalized pushback from certain members who are opposed and will always be opposed and have lobbied their colleagues.
Just opposed, just out of principle. Just out of principle, the marijuana.
There are some. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. There are some who are just
they won't move
to marijuana in general.
Like just the
and they're lobbying their
kind of
colleagues.
Like they just won't. Right. So that's
and so
our
for
best
instance,
bet. The best bet is that it doesn't pass, right? Like that's the best thing that could happen.
It depends on what you like. It depends on what you like. The idea that 4210 would pass and would take the cloud away from patients who need relief through oils and concentrates, but currently suffer through the illegality of those substances or the lack of protection from the MMMA when they're using those substances. For those people, I want 4210 to pass. But with respect to the other bills, I think they've been pretty loaded up with concessions to law enforcement that have all served to make the system less functional and less likely to succeed. So anyway, that's where I'm at on it right now. But who knows how the bills are going to finally end up, if they end up anywhere. And I'm hopeful that we might get some decent bills out of it. Clarifying these areas of law would be good, and making it clear that concentrates and edibles made with concentrates are legal under the Medical Marijuana Act would be, I think, clearly a big win. Even getting some sensible, reasonable rules for operations of provisioning centers would be, I think, a win. The problem is, I think that reasonable people can disagree about what is a quote-unquote sensible set of regulations. I think we've talked about this before. Where I come down is that, the kind of stuff that they have with this seed to sale tracking system and this overwrought and unnecessarily expensive system of secure transport and all of that is a bit much for me, and I think it's going to add a tremendous amount of cost for patients without any benefit.
I mean, at the end of the day, if anyone remembers, the only reason there was support from the medical cannabis community, and I can say that I think this is true across the board, was that if there was going to be a retail center, that retail center would be supplied by the existing caregivers, period. If it wasn't like that, those original bills in 2013 would never have been introduced. Look at where they are right now. The police are, they're like, they're selling licenses that, it's not that group of people. I mean, that's obviously the fight. We know that. I mean, that's not a secret. But I hear police and prosecutors say the issues are the growing in the homes, the smell and nuisances, and now the cities are beginning to develop more and more protracted, violations of the Michigan Medical Marijuana, not allowing certain things, requiring inspections. We're getting these calls from different patients and caregivers. I mean, is that the dialogue that's going on up there, Rep. Irwin? Is that from the police version? Is that what the mantras are?
Yeah, to some extent, but you also get thrown in there the idea that, hey, this isn't the marijuana that you had in the 60s and 70s. It's this whole new thing that will grab a hold of the mind of a young person and lead them down a wayward path. Towards addiction and, indolence, I suppose. So you hear that. You also hear about how the medibles and concentrates are really like a different drug that has a different effect and that is much more dangerous. You also hear a lot about people driving while stoned, and so those are the kinds of things you hear about in addition to what you were saying.
Yo, this is a really funky beat. I want y'all to check it out because it goes a little something like this.